Today, we will rank the main versions of Hercules in movies, series, and games, from the worst to the best. Some people here will surprise you, right? Rodrigo Fara? Well, if it's the Nemean lion skin you want, the Nemean lion skin you shall have. These are the Hercules shown on the screen, ranked from Hercules to depressing, based on how closely each version matches the mythological Hercules. I'm not ranking them here, and there won't be a low motivational tier for power levels. Let's start with The Rock's Hercules, who has an angry face that's very similar to Black Adam's, actually. The story of this Hercules takes place after the 12 labors from Mythology, which according to the movie's script apparently happened, at least for the same reason as in the mythology. In case you don't know, that was when Hera drove Hercules mad and he ended up killing his own family.
If he finished them all and survived, Hera would finally let him live in peace.
And then he did those 12 labors to try to redeem himself, just like in the movie. After finishing the labors, Hercules needed to make some money, so he became a gangster or joined a gang. It depends on how you want to put it. So he decided to form a group of mercenaries, which was probably very inspired by the Argonauts from mythology. Well, these mercenaries are hired by a shady king, who later turns against Hercules himself. Near the end of the movie, King Eurystheus appears, acting like a reverse Flash, and claims everything in Hercules' life was his doing.
They were there that night. Wolves were there. Did you drug me?
And that's why I said that apparently, according to the movie script, the 12 labors happen for the same reason as in mythology, because in reality, they didn't happen. The one who caused all this was Eurystheus himself, who ended up drugging Hercules, and taking advantage of the fact that he was unconscious, ended up ruining his whole family, except for the script where they turned Hercules into a victim of a knockout drug. He looks fine, especially since Hercules is a muscular giant, and The Rock fits that perfectly. He also uses a club, which is perhaps Hercules' main weapon. He wears a lion as a cape, but lacks the Hydra poison bow and arrows Hercules often uses in mythology. He defeats several gods with this weapon, and they made Hercules too human in the movie. So much so that I don't even remember if he's really the son of Zeus in this movie. I'll put him in the it's okay category. You could like the video, subscribe, share, and hype it up since it helps me a lot. To learn more about mythology, check the pinned comment. I'll list some books and headphones there so you won't go bald, just like The Rock. And also join the channel's Discord. This Hercules here looks like those uncles who, after retiring, decide to live a healthy life by jogging on the avenue early in the morning. It's the Hercules from the movie Argonauts from 1963, which you can find. He's even small compared to The Rock, who takes Trenbolone like it's breakfast cereal. If you watch a scene from the movie, you'll notice he was bigger than most other actors. So I'd even say that out of all the Hercules on this list, he's the one who actually comes closest to the Hercules from mythology. As far as I know, there wasn't a smart fit in Greece. He barely appears in the movie and even disappears during the final battle. He doesn't wear a lion's cloak, but you can actually come up with a pretty good excuse for that, right? The Argonauts' journey, which Heracles joins in mythology, is sometimes said to occur during his 12 labors, but other times is placed before them. So, it's somewhat okay. That's why I'll rate him as unacceptable, right in the middle of the comics. It's hard to say, since they occasionally change and reset the characters' stories. Apparently, the DC one has some mythological traits like the 12 laborers, also his role with the Argonauts in the quest for the Golden Fleece, as seen in the New 52. He got kind of stuck there in another dimension, fighting against some giants, and he even went a little crazy because of it. Now, about his appearance, it also changes a lot, depending on the era, depending on the writer. In some versions, he's really muscular, with long hair and no beard, and wearing kind of a medieval armor. In others, he shows up with short hair and a beard, and in still others, he wears the Nemean lion skin because his background is similar to Heracles, and he's already been seen in it. It's fair to say this Heracles, who looks totally out of it, is the one from Fate. For those who, like me, didn't know, Fate is an anime, manga, game, or cartoon, whatever you call it, where apparently there's a war for the Holy Grail. And in this war, there are some crazy mages summoning a bunch of people. And who's part of that group? Heracles belongs to the Berserker class, which explains why he looks so crazy in this image. And yes, I know it seems like it has absolutely nothing to do with Heracles, but I disagree with that idea. That's because this Heracles is gigantic and very strong. Although the name Berserker sounds more Norse than Greek, remember Heracles' 12 labors or punishment for killing his own family during a bout of madness. I thought it was cool they adapted this side of him in this Hercules, which is why he has such a wild image. Here, they likely left out the part where Hera drove him mad. But even so, if you take this image and show it to someone, it's unlikely they'll say it's Hercules. There's nothing of him there, just his club in terms of appearance. If they had included the Nemean lion's skin, it would be great since that's his main trait. Without it, I'll just say it's okay. This next one is Hercules from the second Hades game. And as always, the game adapts in an irrevocable way. Wait, no, revocable, actually, I don't even know if that's a word, but it adapts in an excellent way. Wow, I sounded just like a teacher now. First, because as you can see from this beautiful image of Hercules, the guy looks good, he's muscular, and he's got his club. They did what they had to, right? If you make a Hercules, put him in the Nemean lion skin, so he's instantly recognizable, since that's what Hercules is known for. That's basically an animal rights nightmare. And in the game, apparently Hercules is kind of like Sasuke because he doesn't like people. Many people, especially the gods of Olympus, dislike him. Also, people seem to get hurt wherever he goes. That makes sense, since in mythology, Hercules accidentally killed his mentor Chiron with an arrow dipped in Hydra's blood. He's even a bit cold to Melino, the story's protagonist, because it seems like he has a certain prejudice against witches, and when they ask him about it, he kind of avoids answering. But as the game goes on, he starts to gain respect for Melino, and later he even ends up admiring her for her combat skills. Heracles is awesome, so I'll put him at the top. This next one is Hercules from Monica's gang, and he's apparently from another universe or galaxy. There, where there were 3 rabbit kings, and there was also an evil wizard, who somehow managed to make these 3 kings fight each other. And with that, he ended up taking over the kingdom for himself. And so, to deal with this wizard, the group kinda sprays a magical solution on her rabbit, who transforms into a large war machine-like figure, much like Captain America. Actually, well, this her rabbit is really cool, but it has nothing to do with the original story, right? So down goes the war Hercules. It's a pretty curious thing because, like, in appearance, he doesn't have much to do with the one from mythology, but he has a really awesome entrance.
Hello, brother.
And so he does, in fact, have a height. He has the muscles of Hercules from mythology. In fact, he's really broad-chested. Damn, he's got everything, as you can see, literally me. Aside from his looks, he has nothing else of Hercules. He's missing the Nemean lion's skin, the bow and arrow, and the club, right? They try to trick us a little by giving Hercules those lion gloves, which are actually really cool. They're awesome. But there's nothing mythological in the story itself, though he draws much from the myth of Hercules. During his talk with Kratos, he mentions he was doing one of the 12 labors and giving the guy some work.
Isso não é entre nós, Hercules. Isn't it? You were always Zeus's favorite. Being the heir on Olympus affects your thinking. Zeus has no favorites. Think about it, brother. While I was stuck cleaning the audience tables, he chose you to destroy Ares.
Does he even say that Kratos would be his 13th labor? It's a cool Hercules for the game, so I'll let it slide. Marvel's Cinematic Universe's Hercules is like that meme of Homer's dad. He acts just like that. He appeared in the post-credits of Thor, Love and Thunder, then vanished. Nobody knows where he is. Since there's not much to evaluate, even in this image. He even suggests he could be a better version of Hercules from the Argonauts. In Percy Jackson, his story matches the mythology. He killed the snakes Hera sent when he was a baby. He did the 12 labors and then ascended to Olympus. But if that's what he looks like in the book, then is that what's on the screen? Where is there a skinny Hercules? That's complicated, right? Research shows he appears large, wearing the Nemean lion skin. So, I'll stick with Hercules, but feel free to correct me in the comments if anything. Marvel's Hercules from the comics is already really cool. In fact, Marvel, despite the blonde Thor, in my opinion, adapts mythological beings much better than DC. Hercules is known for the story of the 12 labors, right? The Argonauts' quest for the Golden Fleece also includes stories about serpents. And he's very strong, sometimes even facing Thor himself and even the Hulk. But what always gets me about Marvel is that they choose some pretty weird looks for the beings from mythology, right? Hercules' appearance there isn't related to the mythological Hercules. He wears a little headband for some reason, but otherwise, he's a great Hercules. The next one is Arnold Schwarzenegger's Hercules with a crazy little name, and it has a wonderful poster of Hercules doing a double biceps pose over New York. And for those of you who don't know the movie, I'm just going to read you the synopsis. Hercules, son of Zeus, is sent from Mount Olympus to modern Manhattan, where he begins fighting professional wrestling before mobsters get involved. The synopsis is great, and it's a comedy. As you may have noticed, that's why he goes there. But let me be clear, the movie is wonderful, and now I'm going to read you the description of the next Hercules. Hercules, originally Alcu or Alcides, was a Greek demigod hero famed for his strength, power, and courage. He was the son of Zeus and the mortal Alcmena, the adopted son of Amphitryo, and great-grandson, half-brother, since both are sons of Zeus of Perseus. He was the greatest Greek hero and a model of ancestral masculinity for the royal dogs, the Heraclidae, and a champion of the Olympian gods against chthonic monsters. Quite a description, isn't it? But just look whose description this is. It's a weak creature, Shimigami's weakling, Tensei, and that alone makes it depressing. Shumatsu's Hercules, guys. He seems to me like a slightly copied version of another character from Shumatsu, which is Thor. In fact, Shumatsu's Thor has an outfit that's more Greek mythology than Hercules himself, which is kind of weird. I can't tell you that he doesn't wear a lion's skin because actually that skirt there, or what looks like his skirt, is lion fur, but he's just wearing that skirt. And that club, which looks more like a giant bone, reminds me more of a caveman than a mythological hero. But it goes further, since Hercules from Shumatsu has a very different story than the mythological Hercules. Because, from what I understood, at least when I was watching it, you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, he's not the son of Zeus. He did have the name Alcides, but he was apparently just an ordinary guy who had a heroic sense, a sense of duty to protect his city against the gods themselves. He nearly confronted Ares, which drew Zeus's and others' attention, leading him to Mount Olympus. Even though he has very little to do with the Hercules from mythology, I'll put him in the "it's okay" category. Smite's Hercules has the same story as the mythological Hercules. I think his design looks cool, at least from the pictures I've seen, because unlike other versions of Hercules who usually wear the lion's head as a helmet, he keeps it on the side on his shoulder, kind of like a hunter. I think that's really cool. Although they do exaggerate his club a lot, it turns into this huge thing. It even looks kind of high-tech, but I think it's a great Hercules. Now let's talk about the Hercules from Sítio do Pica-Pau Amarelo, who is played by Rodrigo Faro. And man, this guy is just amazing. Take a look at how the Nemean lion looked in Sítio do Pica-Pau Amarelo, and notice, like, what kind of thing is that? He gets shot in the face with an arrow and keeps trying to pull it out. Then what? Next, Hercules shoots another arrow at the lion. But the lion stands still and Hercules misses. The arrow drops to the ground. Just like crap. Man, this is wonderful. But seriously, I think for something made in Brazil where there's not much money, right? Why? Poor Nemean lion, but I think it's a great Hercules for our standards here, okay? Because this is a Hercules who's just starting his labors, so he doesn't really have the Nemean lion skin yet. To use, he uses the bow, he uses the arrow, and so on. Rodrigo Faro isn't the rock type, but he's pretty muscular. Well, as much as you can without injecting things, right? Disney's Hercules is quite different from the mythological Hercules. Besides the name, I won't go into the differences between the movie version and the mythological one. I already have a video on the channel analyzing Disney's Hercules movie story. The clearest points are that Hercules is the son of Hera and Zeus, not Zeus and the mortal Alcmene. Also, in the movie, Hades, not Hera, is responsible for everything that brings misfortune to Hercules. And so the 12 labors don't happen exactly as they should. He does things in the movie that make him a famous hero in Greece, right? But it isn't related to the other labors. Still, I can't deny that most people think of the Hercules from this movie, not the mythological one. In other words, he became a standard for Hercules, so much so that we call him by the Roman name Hercules, and not Heracles, which is the Greek name. Mainly because of this movie, I have to put it at the top. Did I leave out any Hercules? Do you disagree with anything? Leave it in the comments, share, subscribe, and see you next time.